Alright folks, let's talk Warhammer 40k. Specifically, let's compare the two big titles in the franchise, Space Marine 2 and Darktide. And I know these aren't the only video game titles, but these are the newer-ish ones. So, Space Marines 2 customization is really good and impressive.
Even in death, I still fall.
However, even with all those options to make your Marines look incredible, I gotta be real with you. After going back and playing Darktide after the new Locked and Loaded update and after getting a little bored of Space Marines 2, I gotta confidently say Darktide's a better game. And here's why. Now, I know what you're thinking. Darktide had one of the worst launches in the recent Warhammer history. It was buggy. The RNG was annoying as hell. The progression, well, it was garbage. Forget about it. And yeah, that's all true at launch. And if we're comparing launch, Space Marines 2 clears without question. But now, Darktide has evolved. It does put in work. New skill trees, complete removal of that frustrating RNG, a gameplay loop that's been refined. Darktide always had stellar combat, way better combat than Space Marine 2 as of right now. But it now shines in a way that makes it stand a head and shoulders above Space Marines 2 in terms of combat feel and playing. Now, why do I think all of this? Let's start with the big game changer, skill trees. Darktide now has in-depth skill trees, which makes each class feel unique. Even classes, well, subclasses, I guess subclasses would be the word, inside regular classes make every build feel unique. And the build variety compared to Space Marine 2 is insane. You can build around your character's abilities, you can build around weapons. The choice actually matters. Want to run a melee heavy build? You can. Prefer to focus on range damage? You can. There are perks on the weapons. There are weapons for that too. The number of viable builds is crazy. You can truly tailor your playstyle. And while there are some no-brainer perks, there's enough variety to experiment and create something that feels personal. And that's a big problem with Space Marines 2's skill tree. It's very lacking in good perk choices, let alone perks that I'm like, well, why would I take this over that? Like, all right. Like, look at this perk. Spread? Why do I care about spread when I can give 10% more deep damage, 10% more headshot damage to me and my team? Like, it's just a no-brainer. And there's a million perks like that in Space Marines 2. It's just like, why would I ever choose this over this in the same slot? Darktide does not have that problem. I'll tell you that for sure. And well, yes, they both have different classes, and the customization is way better than Darktide just because Darktide's premium system is horrible and on a rotation, but that's a whole different thing. But when it comes to actual gameplay and build diversity, Space Marines 2 falls really flat. Most classes don't feel that different from each other. And sure, the sniper plays a bit differently because, well, you know what? Using a sniper, you gotta be a little farther. But other than that, you can still just go in melee with sniper if you really want to. Whether you're running an assault marine or a tactical marine, the gameplay doesn't change all that much. You're not building around your weapons like in Darktide. You're building the class. You're not really building around the weapons. And at the end of the day, the perks aren't that exciting. Woo! 20% less spread. Yippee. Yeah, so speaking of perks, let's be honest here. Space Marines 2 skill trees are just lacking, is what I'm trying to say. You got some perks that are straight up useless, and others that are so good, they're no-brainers. Like, why would I even bother with half of these perks, as I said? Darktide doesn't really have that problem. It's kind of just like, yeah, you can choose this, or you can choose that, or you can go that, you can do that. You can what perks synergize with your weapon, but don't synergize with your weapon? How do you want to play? Are you aggressive? All this is just like one class out of 4 to choose from. And then there's Space Marines combat itself. Don't get me wrong, it is good and some fun. I can turn my brain off, and this is what my brain sounds like half the time when I'm playing Space Marines 2. Have I found everybody a fun assignment to do today? When you're here, everything that we do is fun for them anyway. When I can't even read my own feelings, what good are words when a smile says it all? And if the worst world won't write me an ending, what will it take just for me to have it all? This is me like on Ruthless, but compared to me playing like on let's the third difficulty on Darktide at times, the experience is totally different. It's like this. I can't play this song for copyright reasons, so I'll just try my best. Won't you fly, my free bird? can't do this anymore. I hope you enjoyed that singing. I totally just sung that straight into Premiere, and I did not put any effects on it. So the first one should sound decent. The second one, hey, I practiced singing, but I didn't practice Freebird guitar solo vocals. So yeah, let me get back to the video. So don't get me wrong, Space Marine's combat is good, but it's not bad. But it lacks depth, is what I'm trying to say. There's no depth to feel like you're mastering a weapon. The one skill-based element Space Marine has is parrying, but let's be real. Fencing weapons are the only ones that are worth using. So what? You lose a little bit of damage from the balance, but that doesn't matter when survivability is the key to staying alive in both these games. So a little bit of damage for lots of survivability? Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Well, like a lot of things in Space Marines. While in Darktide, the combat there, it's like visceral. Every melee strike, I feel like the weight behind it. Every gunshot feels powerful. The bolter pistol, compared to the Space Marine 2, feels so weak in Space Marine 2 compared to the bolter pistol in Darktide. It's ridiculous. Here, I'll show a side-by-side example. Do you hear and feel the difference? It feels powerful. Now I get it, we're human, so we can't like just lug them around one-handed like Astartes. But like bolter weapons are meant to be like some of the gleaming symbols of the Imperium. Why is I feel so weak with it in I think that's just a general problem. I think all of the bolters and bolt guns in Space Marine 2 just feel genuinely weak when they should be tearing through stuff like they do in Darktide. It's just weird design to me. I get they don't want to make them busted, but like they feel weak and they sound weak too and look weak. And then the melee combat is, I won't even get into the melee combat, but the melee combat's 10 times better than Space Marines. If you've seen like top tier Darktide gameplay, like the hardest difficulties, so like it is crazy. The movement's crazy. There's so much happening that it is a huge skill gap. The melee movement, and you know, it's melee in general in Darktide is a huge skill gap compared to Space Marines 2. But you know, in Space Marine 2, I feel like I'm hitting like all my enemies with like a blessed pool noodle at times. It's just like ugh. And that's the thing with Space Marine 2 to me. It's all grandeur. Sometimes feels hollow in terms of impact. I get it. We're Space Marines. We're supposed to be unstoppable. But when your melee weapons or your guns just don't feel like they're doing damage, that immersion falls apart for me. And even though Darktide makes you feel every hit, you're just a human. But your weapons, they're deadly. They feel way more deadly than Space Marines weapons. Whether it's a sword or gun, you can feel the power and the difference they each make when they slam into enemies. I just can't explain it. It's just so much more visceral. Now, don't get me wrong. As I said, Space Marine 2 definitely has a strength. Customization, top notch. Best for sure I've seen. The ability to customize your armor and gear is just so much better than Darktide's. Even though for the drip, it pretty much allows you to do everything we want in Darktide, but it's a mod and gets rid of all of that. But you know, don't let anybody tell you know before you drip. Don't leave you. But if you do play Darktide on PC, before you drip is definitely a must-have mod. You know, but no customization can fix boring gameplay. Because while I love Space Marines 2, I can just tell how the gameplay is. It's already pretty repetitive with the low mission count. And then the lack of just class variety, because you're not building around your weapons, you're building your class. So it just makes your variety low. Hey, Space Marines 2 looks great, but underneath, it's just good. Not great, no depth. Well, not a lot of depth. So where does that leave us? Space Marine 2 is a solid game. It's fun. Don't take this as I hate Space Marine 2. I love it. I love all the Warhammer games right now, even the turn-based ones. It has incredible customization, but right now, Darktide is just better. It's deeper. The skill trees, the build variety, the combat impact. Everything in Darktide is just proved to the point where it's just more rewarding overall experience for at least me. Tell me what you guys think in the comments section below. And of course, we are the sons of Sanguinius. His blood runs through our veins. His spirit rests within our hearts. We are the Blood Angels. Or something like that. Peace! It's Chaser's mother trucker. It's Chaser's snitch. Let's get some Robux tonight.